Yeah, so we caught a really early flight this morning out of Austin, and it's been a little while since I've flown, actually more than 2 years, but I used to fly quite a bit. And I'm real familiar with going through TSA, and especially of opting out of the body scanners and getting the pat down. But it sure was exciting this time. Very memorable because of all the tactics, and I recognize them, that I've seen them. I've seen TSA agents acting that way time and time again at different stops, and yet because I hadn't flown for a while, the attitude was all new. And we waited in line. It's very crowded. People are obviously treated like cattle. It's not that crowded behind us, but in Austin it was pretty crowded this morning. And people are processed like it's an Auschwitz camp through these body scanners as they go through the crowd, go through the body scanner. Well, we come up to it, and of course we opt out. But we don't just go through the metal detector and then get patted down and move on with our life like I've done in so many other airports. We were isolated on this rubber mat in front of everyone while they were processing through. It made it feel like we had done something wrong just because we opted out, which is incredible because that's your right. Even the TSA, the government, Homeland Security, they admit that's your right to opt out of it. It's also your right to film the TSA, but they don't let you feel that way. We put all our stuff, we shoot videos, so we travel with a lot of electronics, laptops, computers, cameras and stuff, and all those have to be put out in bins, and they got real frustrated because we had 6 bins in our 2 or 3 bags, and it was clogging up the whole thing. But we weren't allowed to touch our stuff. We had to wait there for like 5 or 10 minutes, and they kept saying, we'll get to you when someone has time, when the agent has time. And everyone else, they're good cattle because they just go through the body scanners. But something's wrong with us because we opted out. Even though that's our right, and it's still a security screening, it's still ridiculous. None of these people are threats. They're all being treated preemptively like they've committed a crime. But the whole tone of the thing changed. I'll let Melissa tell the story in a second. When one of the ladies going through the body scanner stopped to ask, why are you standing on that mat? I told her, I'm opting out because I don't want to go through the radiating body scanners. I don't want the violation. And that's when the tactics kicked in, because right behind me, some agent heard that and picked up on it and decided to do that thing where they shout real loud and try to embarrass you. Oh, the radiation. I guess he's an Alex Jones fan. Oh, that's right. The irony of naming Alex Jones, because we're supposed to feel so weird and isolated at opting out instead of, oh, we have someone who wants to be treated like a human and not be processed through the cattle chute and have their body looked at by people who amongst them are perverts and the whole deal. But they have this tactic where they shout out, oh, look, ha ha ha, other agent. They believe there could be radiation. Oh my gosh. I guess I've never heard of the electromagnetic frequency, where everything, including visible light, and all the things on both sides of the frequency you can't see are all radiating, and different radiating wavelengths interact with your body, living things on the planet differently according to the particularities of those things. And the particularities of the body scanners, well, it's cause for alarm. It needs to be looked into further, particularly since Boston Logan, which was one of the first airports to get body scanners, because that's where some of the terrorists got on the plane, well, they found a cancer cluster there, where there's a cancer cluster of TSA agents who'd been around those machines apparently getting cancer. Until that didn't exist anymore, and they covered it up and acted like it never happened. And then from what I can gather, obviously trained their TSA agents that that's a myth, that never happened, there is no radiation. Laugh at people who say there is radiation. And they had this whole attitude as we stood there in this little mat with people milling all about us, and we waited 5 to 10 minutes, and they laughed at us from beyond. And then finally, a lady who I guess otherwise would have been a prison guard was like, let's go, it's your turn. And called Melissa through the gate.
Oh, she was
just
lovely.
From the beginning, it was like, oh, I can't believe this. I have to take time out of my day for your opt-out. Because that's your right. You can just choose, or you can have the pat-down that's invasive, or the body scanner that's invasive.
I don't think anyone has touched that woman
don't tell people
in a long time.
that that's your right to opt out. They don't advertise it. There's not a sign that says, by the way, and if you do it, they treat you like you're a piece of crap and try to make you embarrassed by saying things and doing the loud tactic and making you stand there. And so my person, before he got to doing the pat down, decided to check each and every piece of my camera equipment, everything we had in the laptop with his explosive scanner, ran it through his fancy machine, and it was all like...
Well, he complained by how many things we had. They got 500 things here.
You want to check yours?
No.
Yeah. So it was just weird because this is somehow still America,
we
right?
haven't slept all night and we're tired anyway. It's like, we have to go through TSA. It stinks, but it's almost as if they took a class in how they actually went to a 5th grade classroom where all the bullies were put together to teach them how to act like bullies on a playground. It was ridiculous. And like I said a minute ago, I don't think the woman who got anywhere near me with her attitude, I don't think she's been touched in a loving way by anyone in probably years and years of her life. I felt very sorry for her. But yes, they singled us out on a special mat, and then they did that thing, we've got one for opt-out female, one for opt-out male. Like, they got to yell it, because that's supposed to intimidate you. And then as soon as Aaron mentioned to this person that, oh yeah, we're opting out because we don't want to be radiated, then the guy was like, they think it's radiation here. And they had like a whole conversation. And it's really weird because I've flown out of airports all around the country various times in my life since 9/11. And Austin Airport in particular is the only one where they've told me to my face now multiple times, the TSA, that it is not radiation, it's not an X-ray. So because it's not an X-ray, which is like this much of the entire spectrum, and all that you can see in the visible part of the spectrum is this much, because it's not an X-ray, it doesn't have any effect on you. It's like the machine is powered by some magical fairy, TSA, national security dust, that somehow tells them. And then you watch the videos on YouTube where the guy like walks right through with all kinds of weapons because they're totally pieces of crap what Michael Chertoff got put in and made all kinds of money off of. So it's just, it's extra ridiculous when the guy, it's like he had a whole spiel of intimidation, like if he tried to passive aggressively talk bad about us behind our back, literally standing like behind our backs, literally.
Yeah.
What a wimp, I mean, and if he did that, then somehow we would go, oh, I'm sorry, you're right, I'll go herd myself right through this cattle machine and let you radiate me because you obviously know so much more about it.
And their blue uniform doesn't magically make them exempt from the issues.
No.
I had one ask me why I was opting out, and I explained to him my concerns, and he just straight up told me, you read too much.
You read too much.
That was great. I remember that.
So
that was
if
a
you
couple years
actually read
back.
scientific studies about, I don't know, EMF, it's like airports are magical places where reality doesn't exist and all these frequency waves that are bouncing off everyone. I mean, there's a diner we just passed down here where there's iPads at the tables for you to order your food on because they're going to replace everybody's jobs. And there's giant plugs for you to plug in your electricity thing on the table, basically right up almost at head level. So you can just sit there with your iPad on one side of your head, a plug on the other, and just be radiated the whole time you eat. After you've gone through the TSA radiating body scanner, it's like, I don't know.
But you know what
it
occurred
was the
to me?
intimidation that was so silly.
They were so annoyed just that we had opted out and dared to take their time. Think
so
about it
mad.
though. People are so used to it now.
I just giggle. I was giggling, and I don't think that helped.
What would
I
happen?
was just smiling and giggling because I thought it was like they got mad and they wanted to feed off us getting upset. And when that didn't happen, we just kind of sat there smiling like, this is so ridiculous. You are so ridiculous. Your fake authority does not affect me, sir and madame. Then it was like they almost kind of deflated or something, and eventually they were just like, fine, leave. Because they, but they wanted to make like an example. Because the truth is, if 10 more people behind us did the same thing we did, it would have shut down that whole line, delayed things. I mean, it would have
and then they would stop treating people like crap.
They wouldn't be able to do this to people anymore. So,
because it's still a business underneath it all. And this is the
practice.
illusion of security. And if even a fraction of people said, no, I opt out, it would take so much of their time, they would reformulate their entire business plan.
This was a practiced act, what they did to us, though. It was definitely a practiced act intimidation of, like, I'm going to yell one thing and someone else is going to hear it and they're going to yell back and it's going to be a whole thing. It's like a prison thing, like when you first come to prison and they tap on the bars to scare you. That's what I guess it was supposed to be like. I mean, it just didn't work because, come on. I got things to do. If I'm getting on a plane, it's because I have to go somewhere and not deal with you.
It's dehumanizing, but what really gets me is how much the people in blue uniforms buy into their own power and actually enjoy controlling people.
That's all they have.
And And I really hope they
very
break
sad.
through it because it's a very tiny ceiling above their head.
It's a very small existence.
It's
So,
it was amazing just to get to travel again in free America.
it's gotten so much worse since the last time I was on a plane.
Rubber mat in front of everyone while they were processing through. It made it feel like we had done something wrong just because we opted out, which is incredible because that's your right. Even the TSA, the government, Homeland Security, they admit that's your right to opt out of it. It's also your right to film the TSA, but they don't let you feel that way. We put all our stuff, we shoot videos, so we travel with a lot of electronics, laptops, computers, cameras and stuff. And all those have to be put out in bins, and they got real frustrated because we had 6 bins in our 2 or 3 bags, and it was clogging up the whole thing. But we weren't allowed to touch our stuff. We had to wait there for like 5 or 10 minutes, and they kept saying very memorable because of all the tactics, and I recognize them, that I've seen them. I've seen TSA agents acting that way time and time again at different stops, and yet because I hadn't flown for a while, the attitude was all new. And we waited in line. It's very crowded. People are obviously treated like cattle. It's not that crowded behind us, but in Austin it was pretty crowded this morning. And people are processed like it's an Auschwitz camp through these body scanners as they go through the crowd, go through the body scanner. Well, we come up to it, and of course we opt out. But we don't just go through the metal detector and then get patted down and move on with our life like I've done in so many other airports. We were isolated on this. Yeah, so we caught a really early flight this morning out of Austin, and it's been a little while since I've flown, actually more than 2 years, but I used to fly quite a bit. I'm real familiar with going through TSA, and especially of opting out of the body scanners and getting the pat down. But it sure was exciting this time. Very